Sarah Martinez was 67, retired elementary school teacher, walked 4 miles every morning, meal prepped every Sunday for the week ahead. She did everything her doctor told her to do. Lean proteins, whole grains, vegetables. She was the model patient. 6 months ago, she came into my office with chest tightness that wouldn't quit. The kind that woke her up at 3 a.m. Her labs told me everything I needed to know. C-reactive protein through the roof. Inflammatory markers at levels that belong to someone with severe chronic disease. But Sarah didn't have chronic disease. Sarah didn't smoke. Sarah had perfect blood pressure. What Sarah had was a microwave, and what she had in that microwave every day for breakfast was the same reheated meal. Nobody warned her that reheating certain foods after age 60 converts them into inflammatory triggers that your aging immune system can barely process. Today I'm going to show you exactly which 3 foods are doing this to your heart, your joints, and your blood vessels every time you hit that reheat button. I'm Dr. Marcus Chen. I've been a cardiothoracic surgeon for 28 years. I've performed over 2,000 open heart surgeries. I've held beating hearts in my hands and seen what inflammation does to tissue that's supposed to last a lifetime. And I can tell you this with absolute certainty: the patterns I see in my operating room don't start on the surgical table. They start in kitchens, with habits so ordinary, so automatic, that people never think to question them. What I'm about to share isn't complicated medicine. It's what nobody took the time to explain about how your body processes food differently after 60. Here's what changes after 60 that nobody explains clearly enough. Your digestive system doesn't operate the same way it did at 40. Your stomach produces less hydrochloric acid. The specialized cells in your stomach lining, called parietal cells, decline in number and function. Your gut bacteria composition shifts dramatically. The beneficial strains that help you digest food and regulate inflammation decrease. The opportunistic strains that can trigger inflammation increase. Your immune system, the one that's been protecting you for 6 decades, becomes what we call hypervigilant. It's been on patrol for so long that it starts overreacting. It begins treating previously harmless proteins and molecular structures like invaders. This isn't weakness. This isn't your body failing you. This is your immune system trying to protect you with what I think of as an outdated security protocol. Think of it like an old guard dog that's been on duty too long. For 20 years, that dog protected your house perfectly. It knew the difference between a burglar and the mailman. But now it's older. Its hearing isn't as sharp. Its judgment is compromised by age. It can't tell the difference anymore, so it barks at everything. That's your immune system after 60, responding aggressively to molecular changes in reheated food that your younger body would have processed and eliminated without issue. More than 60% of adults over 65 have persistently elevated inflammatory markers without any diagnosed inflammatory disease. No rheumatoid arthritis, no lupus, no Crohn's disease. Just elevated markers sitting in that gray zone that most doctors note but don't investigate further. The trigger isn't always obvious, but it's often sitting in your refrigerator right now, waiting to be microwaved for tomorrow's lunch or dinner. Now the first food, rice. White rice, brown rice, jasmine rice, basmati, wild rice, doesn't matter. When you cook rice and let it cool, something happens at the molecular level that most people have never heard about. The starches rearrange themselves into what's called resistant starch. That's actually beneficial for your gut bacteria when you eat it cold. Your microbiome loves resistant starch. It ferments it into short-chain fatty acids that reduce inflammation and support your colon health. But here's the problem that nobody explains. When you reheat that rice, especially in a microwave where heat distribution is uneven and aggressive, you don't reverse that resistant starch process and turn it back into regular digestible starch. You create something else entirely: degraded resistant starch fragments, partially regelatinized starches with damaged molecular bonds. And your aging digestive system, your 65-year-old gut with less stomach acid and fewer digestive enzymes than you had at 40, reads these damaged starch molecules as foreign material. Your immune system responds the way it's programmed to respond. It sends inflammatory signals, cytokines, interleukins, chemical messengers that tell your body something is wrong. And if you're doing this multiple times per week, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times per week, like so many of my patients are, those inflammatory signals never fully shut down. This becomes chronic low-grade inflammation, the kind that damages arterial walls from the inside. The kind that makes your joints ache for reasons your doctor can't quite pin down with standard tests. The kind that makes you tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix and coffee doesn't touch. I had a patient named James, 63 years old, software engineer, worked from home, loved his meal prep routine because it saved him time during his busy work week, made a big batch of chicken fried rice every Sunday evening, portioned it into containers, reheated 1 portion every day for lunch, Monday through Friday. By Thursday afternoon, his knees hurt. By Friday morning, he needed ibuprofen just to walk his dog around the block. We ran every test. X-rays showed no arthritis. Blood work showed no rheumatoid factor. No autoimmune markers. His uric acid was normal, so it wasn't gout. I sat there looking at this man who clearly had inflammatory joint pain with no identifiable cause on any standard test. So I started asking different questions. Questions they don't teach you to ask in medical school. I asked him to stop reheating rice for 2 weeks. Just 2 weeks. Make it fresh when you want it hot, or eat it cold in salads. His knee pain dropped by 70% in 14 days. He thought I was making it up. He thought it was placebo effect. I showed him his C-reactive protein levels from before and after those 2 weeks. Before, 4.8. After, 1.2. The evidence was undeniable. The inflammation was gone. His knees stopped hurting. All because he stopped microwaving rice that had been cooked and cooled. Now here's the question you need to ask yourself right now. How many times this week did you reheat rice? Write that number down. Keep it in your head. We're coming back to it at the end of this video. The fix here is simpler than you think. Cook rice fresh when you want it hot. It takes 20 minutes. 20 minutes to protect your heart and your joints. If you're meal prepping because you're busy, I understand that completely. Cook the rice, let it cool, and eat it cold in salads, grain bowls, Buddha bowls, whatever you want to call them. Your gut bacteria will thank you for the resistant starch when it's consumed cold. Your immune system won't go haywire. If you absolutely must reheat rice because you cannot stand cold rice, add a tablespoon of healthy fat to it first. Olive oil, avocado oil, coconut oil, ghee. Mix the fat in thoroughly before you reheat it. The fat coats the starch molecules and slows down the inflammatory response your immune system would otherwise mount. It's not perfect. It doesn't eliminate the problem, but it's damage control for the times when you have no other option. The second food catches people off guard every time. Chicken, lean protein, doctor approved. The cornerstone of every healthy meal prep plan. Grilled chicken, baked chicken, rotisserie chicken. Except when you reheat it, the protein structure changes in ways that create serious problems for your digestive system. Fresh chicken protein is tightly coiled. Your digestive enzymes unravel those coils efficiently. But reheated chicken protein has been denatured twice. Once when you cooked it, again when you reheated it. What you're eating now are protein fragments that your digestive enzymes struggle to process. After 60, you don't produce digestive enzymes as efficiently. Your pancreas slows down by roughly 30%. Your stomach acid decreases significantly. So these degraded chicken proteins sit in your digestive tract longer than they should. They ferment. Bacteria start breaking them down through putrefaction, creating inflammatory compounds. And here's what surprised me during my cardiology fellowship. That immune response doesn't stay in your gut. It goes systemic. Those inflammatory signals travel through your bloodstream to your arterial walls, your joints, anywhere your body is vulnerable. Let me be specific about what this looks like clinically. I see patients with stable angina, chest tightness that comes and goes. No blockages on imaging, no significant plaque, but their inflammatory markers are elevated. I start asking about reheating habits. 9 times out of 10, they're reheating chicken 3, 4, sometimes 5 times a week. Grilled chicken meal prep. Rotisserie chicken leftovers reheated multiple times. Every time, that chicken is triggering an inflammatory cascade their body can't shut down. Stay with me because this is hard to hear. I know you're trying to do the right thing. You're avoiding red meat, choosing lean protein, meal prepping to save time and money. You're not wrong. The problem is, nobody explained that the rules change after 60. Your body doesn't process food the same way anymore. And 15-minute doctor appointments don't allow time to discuss this. Here's the fix for chicken. Eat it fresh or eat it cold. Cold chicken in a salad is perfectly safe. Cold chicken on a sandwich causes no inflammatory response. If you must reheat chicken, do it gently and only once. Never microwave it. Use a low oven at 275 degrees. Add moisture with chicken broth, heat slowly to 165 degrees, and eat immediately. And here's the non-negotiable rule. Never reheat chicken that's been reheated before. 1 cycle of cooking, 1 cycle of eating, 1 reheat maximum. That's the limit. The third food is going to make some of you upset, and I understand that reaction completely. Potatoes. Baked potatoes loaded with healthy toppings. Mashed potatoes made with olive oil instead of butter. Roasted potatoes with herbs, sweet potatoes, red potatoes, russet potatoes. When you cook a potato at high temperatures, the starches inside gelatinize. They absorb water, they swell, they become soft and digestible. That's why a baked potato is fluffy inside. When that potato cools down in your refrigerator overnight or over several days, those gelatinized starches crystallize into resistant starch, exactly like rice does. But potatoes are worse than rice for a reason most people have never heard of. They contain higher concentrations of something called glycoalkaloids. These are natural compounds that potatoes produce to protect themselves from insects and disease. In small amounts, in fresh cooked potatoes, glycoalkaloids are completely harmless. Your liver processes them. You eliminate them. No problem. But when you reheat potatoes, especially if they've been stored improperly at temperatures between 40 and 60 degrees, or if they've been sitting in your refrigerator for 4 days, 5 days, a week, those glycoalkaloids concentrate. The levels increase. And when you reheat those potatoes, you're not destroying the glycoalkaloids. You're consuming concentrated amounts of compounds that become inflammatory triggers in your aging digestive system. Your 60-year-old liver doesn't process these compounds as efficiently as it used to. Your detoxification pathways slow down with age. Everyone's do. And unlike rice or chicken, potatoes also oxidize rapidly once they've been cooked and their cell walls have been broken down by heat. You know that gray tinge you sometimes see on leftover mashed potatoes when you open the container? That's not mold. That's not spoilage. That's oxidation. That's the potato's cellular structure breaking down and reacting with oxygen in the air. That's cellular damage happening to the potato itself at the molecular level. And when you eat oxidized, reheated potato, you're asking your 65-year-old immune system to deal with oxidized lipids, damaged cell membranes, and concentrated glycoalkaloids all at once. It's not equipped to handle that efficiently anymore. The result is inflammation, joint inflammation, vascular inflammation, Gutinflammation. I had a patient named Linda, 68 years old, recently retired nurse. She understood nutrition. She read labels. She avoided processed foods. She loved her twice-baked potatoes. Healthy recipe. She'd use Greek yogurt instead of sour cream. Turkey bacon instead of regular bacon. She'd make a dozen of them on Sunday afternoon, freeze them individually wrapped, reheat them throughout the week for easy dinners. She came to me with joint inflammation so severe in her hands that she couldn't open jars anymore, couldn't turn doorknobs without pain. Her rheumatologist couldn't find rheumatoid arthritis. Her internist couldn't find lupus. Her ANA panel was negative. Her rheumatoid factor was normal. We tested her for everything we could think of. I sat there looking at this woman who clearly had inflammatory arthritis with no identifiable autoimmune cause on any standard test. So I asked her the question that doesn't appear in any medical textbook. What do you eat for dinner most nights? She told me about her twice-baked potatoes, her healthy, portion-controlled, meal-prepped twice-baked potatoes. I asked her to eliminate reheated potatoes completely for 3 weeks. I didn't tell her why. I didn't explain the mechanism. I just said try it as an experiment. 3 weeks later, she came back to my office and she cried. Her hands didn't hurt anymore. She could garden again. She could open jars. She could knit without pain. She asked me why nobody had ever mentioned this in any of her doctor appointments over the past 2 years, while she'd been going through test after test after test. I didn't have a good answer for her then. I still don't have a good answer now. Here's what you need to understand, and I'm going to be direct with you because you deserve direct information. After 60, your body's margin for error shrinks to almost nothing. When you were younger, when you were 35 or 45 or even 55, you could reheat anything, eat anything. Your digestive system compensated. You had redundancy built into every biological process, extra digestive enzymes being produced, a more diverse and balanced gut microbiome that could handle insults, a calmer immune system that responded proportionally to actual threats. That redundancy is gone now. You're operating on what I call skeleton crew biology. Everything still works. Your heart still beats. Your lungs still breathe. Your digestive system still processes food, but there's no backup anymore. There's no reserve capacity. One inflammatory trigger that your 40-year-old body would have shrugged off and eliminated by morning now causes a cascade that takes your 67-year-old system days to resolve. And if you're triggering that cascade multiple times per week with reheated rice Monday, reheated chicken Wednesday, reheated potatoes Friday, you're creating chronic inflammation that never fully resolves. Your inflammatory markers never return to baseline. Your body exists in a constant state of low-grade inflammatory alert. That inflammation damages the delicate endothelial lining of your arterial walls. It creates an environment where cholesterol particles can oxidize and get trapped in artery walls. It makes your joints ache in ways that baffle your rheumatologist because the standard tests come back normal. It makes you tired, truly exhausted, in a way that sleep doesn't fix and coffee can't touch. It makes you feel older than you need to feel. And the worst part, the part that keeps me up some nights when I think about my patients, is that it's completely preventable. This is not complicated medicine. This is not expensive treatment. This is information. Pure, simple information about what happens when you reheat certain foods after your body reaches a certain age. Information that should be standard in every doctor's office, but isn't. Information that could prevent so much unnecessary suffering. The fix for potatoes: eat them fresh. If you're batch cooking, freeze them before the first reheat. Frozen potatoes that you reheat from frozen don't undergo the same starch crystallization. The freezing process interrupts it. If you have leftover cooked potatoes, eat them cold. Potato salad is safe. Cold roasted potatoes in a bowl are safe, but reheating them in the microwave or oven creates the problem. One more thing. If you do reheat potatoes, add fat and acid, a drizzle of olive oil, and a squeeze of lemon juice before reheating. The acid slows oxidation. The fat buffers the inflammatory response. Now let me tell you something I don't say often. I've stood in operating rooms with families waiting outside. Families who brought their mother, their father, their spouse in for what should have been a preventable procedure. And when I talk to them afterward, I ask about diet, not because I'm judging, because I'm looking for patterns. And the pattern I see most often isn't exotic. It's not rare diseases or genetic bad luck. It's ordinary habits. Reheated meals, microwaved leftovers, foods that were healthy the first time, turned inflammatory the second time. Nobody tells people this. There isn't a line item in your annual checkup for how many times per week do you reheat chicken. There should be, because this matters. It matters more after 60 than it ever did before. And the information gap between what doctors know and what patients are told is costing people years of quality of life they don't have to lose. Let me tell you what happened with Sarah, the woman I mentioned at the beginning. Sarah had been reheating egg dishes every single morning for 2 years. Scrambled eggs, frittatas, egg bakes. She thought she was being healthy. High-protein breakfast, no sugar, no processed food. But eggs are one of the most inflammatory foods you can reheat after 60. The proteins denature aggressively. The cholesterol oxidizes. Her inflammatory markers were so high, I thought she had an autoimmune condition. I asked her to stop reheating eggs and eat them only fresh. Within 6 weeks, her C-reactive protein dropped from 8.2 to 1.4. She went from daily chest tightness to completely symptom-free. She said to me, and I'll never forget this, she said, "Why didn't anyone tell me this during my last 10 checkups?" I didn't have an answer. I still don't. So here's your summary. 3 foods you must stop reheating after 60. Rice. The resistant starch fragments trigger immune responses your aging system can't shut down efficiently. Chicken. The denatured proteins ferment in your gut and create systemic inflammation that damages arterial walls. Potatoes. The crystallized starches and concentrated glycoalkaloids become inflammatory triggers that cause joint pain and chronic fatigue. Eat them fresh. Eat them cold. But stop reheating them. Now I want to hear from you, and I want you to be specific. Which one of these 3 foods have you been reheating the most? Don't just say the food. Tell me how many times per week. Rice 4 times a week? Chicken every day? Potatoes twice a week? Write it in the comments. Be honest with yourself. That number is the starting point for change. And if you found this information valuable, if this explains symptoms you've been dealing with that nobody could diagnose, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone in your family who's over 60 and still meal prepping like they're 40. This information doesn't reach people unless we share it. And finally, if you want more content like this, information your doctor doesn't have time to explain during a 15-minute appointment, subscribe to this channel. I post new videos every week. Real information. No fluff, no selling you miracle cures. Just what you actually need to know to protect your heart and your health after 60. One last thing before you go. I'm not here to replace your doctor. I'm not diagnosing you through a screen. What I'm giving you is context, background, the kind of information that helps you have better conversations with your healthcare team. If you have concerning symptoms, see your doctor. If you're on medications, don't change anything without talking to your physician first. But educate yourself. Ask better questions. Understand that your body after 60 operates under different rules than it did before. And those rules matter. They matter in ways that 15-minute appointments can't always cover. Your heart has been working for you every single minute of every single day since before you were born. It's never stopped. Not once. It deserves every advantage you can give it. Starting tonight, that advantage begins with what you choose not to reheat.